Hello everybody and welcome to another Richard Head Longbows video. I haven't done a vlog for a while, so here we go. This one is for the beginners, complete newcomers really, those of you who are interested in the sport of archery and more particularly interested in the longbow and traditional archery. May I be the first to welcome you to probably what is going to be your most interesting and most time-consuming and most addictive hobby that you're probably going to ever have, and I wish you every success with it. One of the biggest problems you're going to find as a newcomer is finding equipment, hence doing this film. I'm going to try and give you some advice on the pitfalls to avoid, where to go to, what sort of things to look out for, how to decide what you want, which is quite frankly one of the main issues. You are very, very lucky coming into this sport now at this time. It's the most popular it's ever been. Archery itself is the most popular it's ever been, but traditional archery particularly has just escalated over the last 10 years or so. There are now more shops around, there are now more Bowyers and Fletchers around than there ever were. I mean, it's amazing. Probably every month there seems to be another maker or another shop opening. It really is exciting times with traditional archery. It's never had more prominence in television, films, you name it. Every time a new film comes out, you get a lot more new people like yourself finding out about traditional archery and being interested and wanting to do it. A lot of people have their first experiences at country fairs or castles that put on events. Medieval history in general seems to be incredibly popular and really is introducing a lot of people to the sport. Now, unless you're staggeringly rich and can just afford to go out and buy a piece of equipment like that and not worry about it, then fine, perhaps this video isn't for you. But if, like the rest of us, you aren't blessed with tons of money, then it can be quite a daunting task. One of the bits of advice I always give to people who are new to the sport, that is to find your local club. Now, years ago you would have found that most clubs were into Olympic archery only, i.e. using modern equipment. But as I was saying earlier on, you're very lucky. A lot more clubs now, or certainly there's a lot more people within clubs who will also be into traditional archery and perhaps even the longbow, who will be able to help you out. Getting the basics, a grounding in archery that you would get from an archery club really will help you out in the long term. Now, that's kind of slightly a contentious issue with some people in the traditional world. There is quite a groundswell of people who are self-taught, and that's fine if that's the route that you want to go down to, but this is purely based on my experience and what I would advise you to do. There are several reasons why I wouldn't go down the self-taught route, and that's probably why you found this video, because you want some help, at least some guidance at first to do so. And a bit like earlier on what I was saying about the whole money issue, for a lot of people buying a bow is going to be a fairly one-off thing and they don't want to get it wrong. And also learning a sport, any sport, learning from the beginning, there are so many mistakes that you can make that will at best put you off, or at worst injure you permanently, meaning that you're unable to compete in that sport ever again. You may say that's a bleak outlook, but it's true. We've seen it many times where people have been perhaps sold the wrong equipment or just simply gone out blindly and bought it without any advice at all. So once you've got some grounding in the basics of archery, in the safety aspects of archery from an archery club, or perhaps a group, perhaps a reenactment group if that's the area that you're getting into, i.e. at least following the advice of, say, a coach or an experienced archer who can help you out. Now, they should also be able to give you some advice on what equipment to buy, what equipment is going to suit you, and what you want to get out of it. These are the things that you need to think about. What sort of bow am I actually interested in shooting? Is it the English longbow? Maybe you want to use a horse bow, or any of the sort of wooden flat bows that are available. there's such a huge range. You're unlikely to be able to get to try them all, but that would be the ideal. If you can try a bow out, maybe people will allow you to. Maybe the club has a number of different types of bow that you're able to try out. Find out what suits you, find out what you're most interested in, and go down that route. Now, as far as buying a bow is concerned, if your friend or club is able to help you, all the better. If you're determined to go out on your own, if you're determined to do it without following the advice of someone who knows what they're doing, then there are some things that you can be armed with at the very least. So when you go along to a shop or you go to a bowyer, you'll at least have some information that they will require from you to be able to supply you with that bow or make you that bow. Draw length. Draw length is probably one of the most important things that you'll need to know about yourself and how you shoot to be able to purchase that bow. We've done a video on how to measure your draw length. I'll include that in this video. I'll put it over here or something and probably put it in the description box below. Once you know your draw length, and the draw length essentially is the distance between where your hand is with holding the bow and where you're actually drawing to, you can determine from that what length of arrows you need and also what length the bow needs to be to match your draw length. One of the problems with buying bows off the shelf is that they tend to be made to, shall we say, a one size fits all. You'll often find that shops will have a huge number of bows that are long in length to suit a long draw length, so that they'll suit almost anybody. And when I say suit, I mean that they will work, but they won't necessarily be suited directly to you. So say you've only got a 25-inch, 26-inch draw length, which is an average in target archery, but you're buying a bow that's got a 30-inch draw length. Well, you aren't working that bow to its efficiency. So the bow you're buying may be 40 at 30, but because you're only drawing 26 inches, you might not be drawing anywhere near that weight. You might only be drawing 30 pounds or even less, which has knock-on effects, which it can mean the arrows you buy don't match the way you're shooting that bow. They might match the bow if you were drawing it 30 inches, but they won't match it at the 25, 26 inches that you're drawing it. I'm sorry if this sounds complicated, but there's no other way of saying it. Getting the correct draw length, finding out what weight suits you, are some of the major steps to buying the correct bow and not buying an incorrect bow that A, won't shoot properly for you. You'll get despondent because you aren't getting the performance out of it that you want. You're probably finding it very difficult to hit the target, and it just won't be fun, which, let's face it, is probably why you're interested in this in the first place. Now, what are your choices when buying a bow? Well, you can either go to a retailer, and there's plenty of those about. There are ones who have been going for 30, 40 years plus. There are ones that have been only going 4 or 5 years. Now, most of them will probably carry a large number of bows, probably a large number of different types of bows. The problem with that, as I've just described, is they may not have the correct bow to suit you, which is difficult with traditional equipment to keep a complete range to suit everybody. It isn't quite as difficult with modern equipment because often modern equipment can be changed to suit. Your other alternative is to go direct to a maker, to a Bowyer or a Fletcher, and have your equipment made by them and get something tailor-made. Obviously the problem with tailor-made equipment, such as ourselves, is we have a waiting list. We have a waiting list of about 5 months. Now, for a beginner, that's going to be intolerably, if I can say the word, frustrating to have to wait that length of time. But there is one advantage to this, and this is what I was explaining earlier on. If you know what sort of bow you're interested in and you're after an English longbow, then coming to us and getting the correct advice, being measured up by us, means that you can at least get onto the order books, get onto your club and start getting that tuition and start gaining experience before you actually get the bow. This is another one of the problems with archery. There's such a steep and sharp learning curve from starting to getting to a point where you start to plateau out. and start getting used to the equipment you're using, getting used to the sport, that it makes it the shelf life of a bow for you quite short. So you can buy a bow at a certain weight, a weight that's comfortable for you to use, and you can find within a matter of weeks or months, depending on how much practice you put in, that that bow is too underpowered and just isn't giving you the same performance that it was when you bought it, simply because you've outgrown it. Now, if you're spending £400 or £500 on a longbow, or any sort of bow for that matter, and you find within a few months you wished you'd bought, say, something a little bit heavier, obviously that can be very frustrating. There is a second-hand market for bows, and yes, you can pass it on, same as you would anything else, same as with a car or anything else. But as the same problem with a car, that value will obviously drop quite quickly. So yes, ordering a bow, waiting until it's made, the advantage is you can then go back to the bowyer once you've learnt, once you've, say, borrowed bows from the club, or been able to use other people's equipment, or maybe even buying a second-hand bow cheap just to get you going. By the time your bow is about to be ready, about to be made, you can go back to that bowyer and they can actually up the weight, they can change the bow for you. If they haven't already started on the bow, it's very easy. Particularly with us, what we do is people will come to us and we'll then give them a call after a few months, say, look, we're about to start on your bow, do you want to come back again, try a few other bows out, maybe we can change the weight of bow that you're eventually going to end up with. This avoids some of that problem that you may experience, as I say, with buying something that you regret later on. Now, if you do go to a retailer, as I say, you will probably be able to try out several different types of bow, and hopefully they will have something in stock to suit you. This isn't always the case, and as I say, as long as you're going in forearmed with this information about your draw length and the sort of weight of bow that you want, at least you're, and I hate to say it, not going to be fobbed off with something that they just want to sell to you, rather than actually trying to sell you something that's going to suit you. So beware. Some things to watch out for. Don't be overbowed. Essentially, don't be a macho idiot and go, I want a heavy bow, I want the heaviest bow in the world. It just makes no sense. You'll just hurt yourself and you won't be able to shoot. And oh no, I won't. We get it all the time. People come to us and say they bought a bow somewhere and they've now got a shoulder injury and they're having to have cortisone injections or something. Really, like any sport, it's something you need to build up to. And I like the analogy of, say, weightlifting. You don't just go and start trying to lift 300 kilos on the first time that you do it. It's something that you build up to. Particularly one of the most popular, or certainly the most growing in popularity sides of traditional archery, is the heavy bow shooting, the shooting of war bows and war arrows. Now, as any of them I'm sure will tell you, a lot of people can easily end up with injuries by being a bit macho and a bit of a typical bloke, which I'm sure we've all done, where oh, I can do that, I can shoot a bow that heavy, and quite soon you'll find that you can't, and that really starting small and working up carefully and working by increments will be your best way of doing it. Now, obviously, one of the other things to watch out for is where you get your bow and where you get your equipment. Now, as a beginner, this is obviously really difficult. And I'm certainly not going to start blowing my own trumpet, and I'm certainly not going to start berating anyone else out there who makes bows who I don't think is any good or whatever. There's no point me doing that. What is important is you use your head. It's the same as anything else. You wouldn't go and buy a car off a dodgy car dealer if you know that they're dodgy. Using people's experience, people in your club, people you meet, get involved with some of the clubs that are out there, go to some events, go to some shoots. You'll start to see what people are using. You'll be able to talk to people, find out to them, well, why is that equipment good? Does it suit you? Will it suit me? One of the dangers and one of the things I've seen quite a lot of recently is people asking on Facebook, Now, unfortunately, asking a direct question on Facebook usually means it doesn't get answered directly, and usually it goes off on weird tangents. And also, one of the other rather disturbing things is you will get people who have got archery businesses or are bowyers, and they will just jump on you straight away and say, you know, you want to come to us, we're great, we've been doing this, we do this, blah, 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 our bows win these competitions or whatever. It's not helpful. You're just fresh blood to them, and well, yeah, I'm sure you understand what I mean. So who do you go to? Well, as I say, ask around, not necessarily on Facebook. Try some equipment out if you can. Find somebody, say, oh, well, I like the look of that bow or whatever. It may just simply be a case of asking people, can I try your bow? I mean, we usually do advise people, certainly who buy our bows, to don't let other people use their equipment because it's been tailor-made to suit them, and ideally you shouldn't really be passing your bow around, so you might struggle to find someone who's willing to let you use their equipment to find out whether it suits you. So really it's a case of finding someone you trust and asking them, and shop around. You may be limited by funds, like we were talking about earlier on. Sadly, as is often in life with anything, you get what you pay for. If you find something cheap on eBay from China, then it's probably something that's cheap and from China. No offence. If you're interested in the longbow, the English longbow in particular, there is the Craft Guild of Traditional Bowyers and Fletchers, a guild set up some time ago now by Hugh Saw, to try and collate all the people who are interested in making bows and arrows, and to try and raise the bar as far as quality and of the particular craft. They're worth looking at. Again, I'll put their website in the description description box below. Have a look at that. But again, don't take my word for it. It's fine to do your own research and see who's going to suit you. And like I mentioned earlier on, it may well come down to cost, and that's fair enough. Don't think just because it's the wood most associated with longbows that it's the bow that you have to have, and that is you. Yeah, it is the bow wood most associated with the longbow, and has that sort of romantic air to it. Because of its scarcity, and it's very difficult to make bows from, this is a yew bow here actually, they are the most expensive, for good reason, for many reasons, but mainly the scarcity of the wood, as I say, and the difficulty in making it. Now, a lot of people really do want a bow with yew in it. We get it a lot. We get a lot of people who say, well, I have to have that. That's what I've always dreamed of. It's what I've always wanted since I was a boy. And we understand that. I think financially it will restrict most people. And also, there is a reason it's favoured, is because it's bloody good and it makes a good bow. But when you're a beginner, you'll probably not benefit from having it. I know that sounds contradictory, but suffice to say, when you're a beginner, you're learning. It can take you a long time to become a good archer, or to become as good as you can be. Like I was mentioning earlier, your physicality will change quite quickly. Your ability to shoot the bow, your ability to get used to the weight of a bow, your muscles and the way you use your back and your arms. But your abilities with the bow can take a long time, and for a lot of people, I'm sure they'll tell you, can take you forever. It really can become one of the most frustrating sports, where one day you shoot brilliantly, the other day you shoot like a load of crap. So don't be fooled into thinking I have to have a yew bow. You don't. There are plenty of other bows out there that are just as good. Triple laminates can be just as good, have just as good a cast as a yew bow. Not all of them. Again, it depends on who makes it and how well made it is. So I would set aside perhaps your sights of having a yew bow until you've had a bit more experience. But again, that's just my advice. Some people jump straight in, and that's fine. You do what you want. Suffice to say, once you've got your bow, there are several things you'll need to know on how to look after it, how to care for it. Again, we've done videos on that. I'll let you have a look at those, familiarise yourself with the equipment you've got, and listen to who you buy it from. Make sure you follow what your bowyer or the shop that you're buying from is telling you. They will have bits of advice on how to use it, how to care for it, how to store it, etc, etc. Try and stick to that if you can. When buying a bow, let's say particularly if you're getting it from a maker or a shop, find out about a guarantee. The vast majority of people now will give a year's guarantee on a bow. There's lots of rumours going around, has done for years, of saying that long bows break. All bows break. Okay, after 30 plus years of being on a shooting line, I've seen every single type of bow break. Bows break. It's just one of those things. It's the same as cars. Cars break down. There's no such thing as a perfect make of car that always goes on forever. It's just a nonsense. Bows will break. Make sure you look after it. Make sure you're buying from a reputable person who's going to give you some sort of guarantee. If they're not giving you a guarantee, there's probably a reason for it. If you're buying one off eBay, caveat emptor, it's really up to you if you want to take that sort of risk buying a bow second hand. If you're buying it from a friend, then obviously you can sort out some sort of deal. There might be some sort of comeback. But quite often buying blindly from the internet can lead to all sorts of problems. But that's the same as buying anything on the internet. And if you don't know that by now, then you blooming well should. Hopefully that gives you some pointers on what to do when you're looking to buy a longbow. Now, there is probably lots of other things that I've forgotten. There's so much that I've learnt over the years and so much that I've forgotten as well. If you need to know anything, just give us a shout, just ask. There's plenty of people like us out there who have been doing it a million years and who are happy to help. We always try and give impartial advice. We don't like to push things onto people, and quite frankly we would rather people took it slowly and took it a stage at a time rather than jumping in and buying a bow. As I say, we're in that position because we tailor make bows. We have a waiting list of 5 months. We don't have a stock of bows on the shelves for you to be able to pick up. Shops that have a stack of bows, no offence to them, they are trying to sell them. They need to sell them. It's a business, we understand. There is a difference. To summarise, find out if that shop's useful to you. Find out if they're a place that are reputable and aren't just going to force something onto you. If you go to a bow maker and you haven't got advice, make sure you know everything you need to know about buying a bow. What your draw length is, what sort of weight of bow it is that you need, what sort of bow it is that you want. Forewarned is forearmed. If you've got all that information to hand, you can go into the process of buying a bow that much safer, and hopefully you'll have fun with it. Don't forget that. It is about having fun. Don't worry about it too much, don't panic too much. And if you do end up buying completely the wrong bow, as I say, you probably can sell it. You can probably pass it on to somebody else. And if you've bought a bow that's too light for you, like I was mentioning earlier on, and a few months down the line, you wish I'd bought another one, you might be able to trade it in with somebody. You might be able to swap it with somebody for something a bit heavier. Because there's plenty of people out there who've got too heavy a bow and want to drop down in weight. So you, again, don't panic. I'm making it sound like it's the end of the world if you buy the wrong bow. But what the most important thing is, I don't want you to be put off. Because it is people like you, the newcomers who've got all this fresh energy and fresh ideas, who can perhaps teach us, oh buggers, something new. And also you're the sort of people we don't want to lose and don't want to be put off, and want you to be long-term committed people to archery. Archery clubs need people like you. They need new people. They need young people. A lot of archery clubs now are full of old curmudgeonly old buggers who are about to die any moment. And these clubs will go and our skills and things will be lost if we don't have new people coming into it. We hope that it's not too a confusing world for you, and you'll find most of us are good fun and usually helpful. So as I say, if I've missed anything out, I'm sorry. Give us a shout. You can contact us via YouTube, Facebook, email, phone us up. But you don't have to talk to me, you don't have to come to us, you don't have to buy anything from us if you really don't want to. You don't have to trust me, I should be talking a load of crap. It's entirely up to you, but whatever you do, be careful and have fun. Thank you for listening. Oh, and subscribe. Yeah, subscribe. Hit the button wherever the subscribe button, I don't know where it is. I have absolutely no idea. And like it as well. There's a like button somewhere as well. I don't know where that is either.
Welcome to another Richard Head Longbows video. This time we'll be explaining the importance of setting up your longbow correctly with the hope of improving your shooting and giving you more consistent shots. We'll be explaining bracing height, what it is, what it should be and how to adjust it, the importance of knocking point on the